Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the ScaleSaaSPodcast. I'm your host, Ali Jamal. Today, we are diving into the world of sales workflows, CRMs, and how AI is reshaping the way sales teams operate every single day. I'm thrilled to be joined by Steve Farfsing, founder and CEO of ProspectStream, a platform designed to bring clarity to the often chaotic world of sales management. Steve has spent years in sales leadership before founding ProspectStream, and I can't wait to hear his journey and insight. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Let's start with your background. Can you share your journey from sales leadership to founding this company, and what recurring problems with traditional CRMs and daily sales workflows convinced you there had to be a better way?
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you a secret first. Please don't share it with anyone. But I was an art major in college.
Right. Okay.
Going to be the next Picasso. And then I hit the reality that I had to make a living. So I went into sales, like so many people do. But in that lengthy journey, I did do a lot of things and grew in my skill and was a sales trainer. I'm a sales process junkie, is what I found out.
Right.
So as my journey went, I became a partner in a for hire sales organization. So we're an outsource a company where you could hire some of our salespeople to boost your sales. So we did lead generation along with that, but we also did selling, and it was for technology companies, high-end work. We charged a lot, so we could afford to hire good people, give them lots of training, really try to have the ultimate staff. And despite all of that, we found that we still had the same problems everybody else did. You had your small group that every day came in and just rocked the world. And then you had the larger group that came in and just bored it to death. They just couldn't get out of their own way. And they were all very capable, competent people. They did the work. They tried. And it was frustrating. We went to incredible lengths. The end of the day, my team, and at one point internationally, we had nearly 300 salespeople.
Right.
So it wasn't just a couple of us. So at the end of the day, my local team would hand me a cassette tape, and it had 8 calls on it that some were good and some were bad. And I'd listen to them on the way home and just be frustrated out of my mind. But I used to joke and say when I'd leave the main floor and go around the corner to my office, they might as well have been in another world. I had no idea what they were doing. And for the time, we had the latest technology and CRMs, way to use client CRMs on a regular basis, which was exceedingly difficult. So I'd worked for ended up running a manufacturing company for 7 years, but in that period, I learned things like Six Sigma and Kaizen and different productivity methodologies. So I applied them, and I went out with my stopwatch, and not literally, and I had some tools built that would count. And back then, a PBX phone system was, getting data off that was always a challenge, and having different CRMs, it was so I had to build certain things, worked pretty well, but we put a big effort into it. I mean, we really spent a lot of time and money on collecting the data. And at one point, I had about 3.5 million sales interactions, a reasonable data set.
Right.
And we started finding things. So how often do you call somebody? Turned out to be really important. Do you leave a voice message? Turned out to be really important. These were things that really put us in the elite class. We had big companies, LexisNexis and Microsoft Great Plains and Jack Henry and some big software companies that used us over and over again because we'd figured it out. Well, the software side, I was speaking to a group in Chicago and halfway through my talk, because I talk about the rules and I give people, I've always just given people it. It's never been a secret. And he stood up and said, "Are you going to sell software in the end?" Like, no, that's your problem. And this was 2009, thereabouts. And it really struck me. So I cashed out. My partner bought me out, and I kept involvement in the two offshore organizations just to have some cash flow. And I set off on building software. And I could use my old call center and the offshore call centers as a platform to test. And I started building version 1 and try to implement these rules and figure out how to make it work. And actually my first step, I took a job as a consultant with Salesforce, and I had the idea that I could build it into Salesforce.
Right.
And being a software novice, I learned quickly that it it depends. So a typical CRM, as Mark Benioff said himself, it's a spreadsheet online,
Yeah.
and that is truly all it is. There's no process, there's no if then, there's no algorithms, there's nothing in there. It's just data fields. Store data.
I second this information because I have used multiple CRMs. This includes Salesforce, Zoho. I just use them to store data, to store my leads. It doesn't come up with the optimized workflows. I can use Google Sheet to serve the same purpose. So you left Salesforce and then set up your own
Yes.
CRM software
Yeah.
company, right? Okay.
Yeah. It took about 3 years to quit beating my head against the wall and just go ahead and try to build it. Uh, I knew what the problems were, and we just had to figure out how to make it work. So hired the first developer, and we made version 1, which was amazingly simple, and it actually did some good things. And the sales teams used it, and we learned a lot. And within a year, we stopped updating version 1 because the platform was not up to the standard that we needed. So we started building version 2, and we stayed on client server, not the web, which was a huge mistake, but it was just going to be for our call centers, but customers wanted to buy it and use it. And as soon as we did that, let one in the door, it was a mess. So we quickly started building version 3, which was a full web version.
Yeah.
It grew. It just kept growing. We learned a lot, and here we are today launching version 4 with a predictive AI framework that it runs on and all the latest and greatest, and we can do amazing things with it. We're a data collection tool. If you really want to boil it down to the most important function that it does is it collects data, lots of data, literally
Right.
hundreds of data points for every sales touch. And once you have the data, you can do amazing things.
Right. So I just want to clarify, does your tool work on top of existing CRMs like Salesforce, Pipedrive, Zoho, or does it act like a CRM itself? So how
Mhm.
do you position it?
Everybody believes that their CRM fulfills some important function. And the
Hmm.
reality is it is just a spreadsheet. So yeah, we replace the CRM. It's not how I wanted to go. I would have rather have been a bolt on, and you could make it work, but Salesforce has a fairly limited number of data fields. All of them have a fairly limited set of data fields. And even those that you can customize the data fields, they're not attached to anything. Whereas ProspectStream has an unlimited amount of data fields. You build them yourself. You can build intelligence into them. It functions totally differently. So the idea of integrating them, you're really just propping up the CRM that they already have. It's the CRM they already have adds no value to it. And the sales people aren't going to want to work in the CRM. They're going to want to work in ProspectStream. I was going to say that's a bold statement for me to make, and I'll back it up this way. We all know how long it takes to onboard somebody into a CRM. It's not an easy task. The simplest ones, a few weeks. Salesforce, 6 months. In
Yes.
ProspectStream, we can onboard anybody in 45 minutes. It is
Wow.
literally that simple for the salesperson.
Okay, so I also just want to talk about the current, pain points of the sales rep using the legacy CRMs, Pipedrive, Salesforce, Zoho. What do you think? Why they still struggle to build consistent pipeline, while the claim from Salesforce is that it's a very sophisticated CRM? Can you elaborate a bit?
Yeah, the strategy with Salesforce, and this comes from Benioff himself at a training event that he came and spoke at. Complexity is important to them. Complexity allows them to build a relationship with the IT department, which is more of an alliance. So keep it complicated. We need staff to run it, which is, it's job security. They charge a tremendous amount of money. So the IT department is the biggest supporter of the software. IT departments have a lot of authority. So the sales department never wins that fight. I've been forced into that situation a number of times, but it's the complexity is built in on purpose. And they're very smart people. I mean, Salesforce is they're brilliant. I mean, I give them, a 10.0, they're the best, for their strategy. They're not best for the salesperson, but they know how to make money. So complexity, their ecosystem, we are going to build a piece for the ecosystem, and how much you have to pay Salesforce and the hoops you have to jump through, it's not worth it. But this is, man, I'm going to sound so cynical. It's just what I found, though, is there was always questions, no matter the CRM that we were involved in. The question was, how do a simple metric. How many phone calls did your salesperson make? They don't tell you. When did the salesperson log in and when did they log out? Let's just go super simple. Any piece of software can track that.
Yes, and without this information, how can you optimize the workflows if this basic information is hidden or not available?
Yeah.
Right.
And ultimately we have, as we build out, the term is mature ProspectStream, we'll be collecting over 1,100 data points per prospect. If a fully worked prospect will have over 1,100 data points that ProspectStream will collect automatically. The salesperson never has to even think about it.
You're collecting as much data points as Facebook right now, I think. That's amazing. That's amazing. So here are two important questions for you, Steve, and this is related to AI. AI has become the buzzword in every industry.
Yeah.
In your view, where does AI genuinely help sales teams gain clarity and where it is overhyped? And there's another question. How does ProspectStream use technology, including AI, to simplify daily sales routine without overwhelming reps?
Excellent. I love those questions. AI is amazing. I am a lover of it. I'm in several, we'll call them think tanks about AI. It's going to change, it is changing the world. Our development team, we call it AI first. We have AI writing our code, and the developers are engineers. Uh, but in terms of sales teams, there's a lot of confusion out there about generative AI and what it can do, and predictive AI, or as the old term, machine learning.
Hmm.
And generative AI, I could bore you for hours talking about the ins and outs of both, but it's working off what they call an LLM, large language model, which they have to suck data out of everything. They have these massive databases, which your data becomes part of, but it's about language. It's reading and writing and evaluating language, where predictive AI is working off of your data, no one else's, your data learning,
Hmm.
and then you can build algorithms that will optimize and improve the productivity of the salesperson and take tasks off their plate. So what troubles me about the generative AI is they keep saying, "Oh, now your salespeople can create these emails so much faster." Yeah, they can go down the wrong path so much faster.
Correct.
It's still marketing's job. That you really shouldn't be encouraging your salespeople to write their own emails. No, it's a bad idea. The message is critical. They should get guidance through all of their sales process. So there's a lot of hype, a lot of glitter. Generative is cool. I use it all the time. Uh, I use it for research. I mean, I do all kinds of things with it, and everybody should know it really well. Writing a prompt is becoming an art form. Where on the other side, with predictive AI, that's really the powerhouse. That's what's going to grow sales. That's really what's going to bring productivity. And nobody has it. None of the CRMs have predictive AI. Why? Because they don't have any data. My trick question with people is to ask, how much data does your CRM collect? And they'll argue that it collects a lot of data. No, the salesperson collects data and puts it in the CRM. The CRM doesn't collect anything. It'll store it, but it doesn't collect it. So now, for any AI to work correctly, it's what's in that database. It's the knowledge that it has. If you have the results of 2 sales calls, you're not going to be able to make any predictions on that. You need hundreds or thousands. And we're actually able to augment some companies' data with the general data that we collect, so we can make them even stronger. But it's critically important that it be their data. It'll always be their data. It'll never go out into a pool uh, like other applications
Yeah.
have
So
done.
so there's no security issues as well, because it stay within their
Yeah,
databases. Right. Right.
yeah,
Okay. So here comes the question about your success story. So can you share a success story of a team that went from this scattered, chaotic workflows to more clarity and
yeah,
structure with ProspectStream?
yeah, absolutely. I have my favorite one to tell, uh, and it was a company that used my favorite CRM when we started with them.
Mhm.
And what's funny about it is how do you determine that your CRM's working when your sales team has at least two or three spreadsheets that they're working off of? These folks, some of them had 7, 8, 10 spreadsheets. And what we used to do in our call center is when someone would want us to use their CRM, we would go to the top performing sales reps and say, what spreadsheets do you keep? We would just mirror what they did because they had already figured out the holes. They're doing it for a reason. They're not doing it to not use the CRM. They're doing it because the CRM isn't solving their problems. This particular company, and I probably shouldn't mention their name, uh, they had a sales force of 48 salespeople. And this is over a 5 year period because we're still learning ourselves. The software was doing its thing, but how we helped them evolved. And in those 48 salespeople, they're in the gifting industry,
Mm.
uh, premium incentive business, but they were a food company.
Right.
And so it was corporate gifting. And at that time, the corporate gifting, the food part of it was really trailing off. So their business had dropped, but they were still profitable at only $6 million in business. Now,
Right.
they had a whole restaurant side. I'm probably gonna give enough clues that they'll figure out who it is.
Mm.
A big company that you know.
Mm.
So their retail side was their big business.
Mm.
Corporate gifting was a piece that, delivery for meetings and all that stuff.
Mm.
But in that period of time when they sold the corporate gifting part of it, we had gone from 48 salespeople down to 19, and sales went from 6 million up to 24 million.
6 million up to 24 million. Wow. So
Yeah,
basically 4x the revenue.
yeah.
That's amazing stats.
And it wasn't that unusual. We had a we have customers that are on that pace. We had to leave version 3 because it was built on a program called Silverlight. Uh, Microsoft stopped supporting Silverlight. So we had to rewrite from the foundation up, but it gave us the opportunity to uh, really improve the system.
Mm.
And we are just launching version 4 now. So our success stories come from version 3.
Version 3, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So version 4 will be much better and it will create more success stories. So, Steve,
Mhm.
let's just talk about the adoption part as well. So, you go to the boardroom. What are the most common objections you hear from sales leader when you're pitching ProspectStream? And how do you address them? Because they're still using the legacy systems.
Yeah. Yeah. And and it's no surprise to anybody. There's tons of data out there. 80% of salespeople either don't use it or use it incorrectly or in a very limited fashion. We did it. No surprise. And I'm sure they've heard hundreds of promises that can be solved with a new CRM.
Mm.
But there was a study back in the 20s, and what this group was studying was the effect that increased lighting had on worker productivity. So they went into the factory and measured everybody's productivity in a very detailed, so wonderful study. And then they increased the lighting and then went back and measured everybody's productivity. And amazingly enough, productivity went up. So hooray, success. Increased lighting. So the gentleman that, and I sorry, the name of the person escapes me.
Right.
Um, the gentleman that led the study said, let's reduce the lighting and see what happens. So they repeated their process, checked everybody's productivity again, reduced the lighting, checked it again. And guess what? Productivity still went up. They learned from these studies is that lighting probably had something to do with it, but it was more about managing. As
Mm,
Peter Drucker says, what's measurable is doable. What uh, when the employee knows that everybody knows, and that there's steady conversation about the work, the quality of the work, the volume of the work, all those things, the effectiveness of your process, the message. If everybody knows that you're on top of it, they're going to naturally increase productivity. And in this case, adoption. And there was another story that came out of that same account. We would help onboard salespeople for them, and there was a woman that had come back from maternity leave, a long maternity leave, and she had begun her sales career when she first got pregnant. So she wasn't an experienced salesperson, and she was very concerned about the rest of the, competing with the rest of them because they were all hired with experience. And I said, just follow the system because it gives you everything. It gives you guidance and everything, what to say, when to say it, everything. And she did, and she, within a amazingly short amount of time, about 3 months, became not just the best of the new hires, but she was right at the top of everybody.
this CRM space is so much crowded, and the new AI-driven sales tool are hitting the market.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you see as your real competitor, and how is ProspectStream different?
Yeah, yeah, boy, there's a $1 million question. I just read an article from somebody on LinkedIn, and he was talking about how a number of these AI tools, like Gong and a few of those are, they grew really fast in the beginning, and now they're really falling off. They're hard to implement. They're complicated. They're only a siloed solution. They're just fixing one thing. And, now you really have to have 5 or 6 pieces of software to have a complete system. Well, we we do all of the things that 5 or 6 would do, and we're not siloed, and we have all the data so we can do analytics and improve people's processes very efficiently. So it's very simple for a company to manage. But our biggest competition, they're still the Salesforce, HubSpot,
Hmm.
the rest of the bigger ones. The smaller CRMs, we don't see a ton of loyalty with
Hmm.
them, so they're not that hard to bump out. We'll do a pilot with a company with enough salespeople and let them see for themselves. It's an easy piece of software to deploy if you have everything you need, and that's probably the biggest challenge that we have. We're constantly seeking more consultants to work with us because companies don't know what their sales process is.
Hmm. So
They,
may I ask how much time it takes to deploy your solution? Because you just said it takes very less time. So what is less
yeah,
time?
if they have, and of course, the amount of integrations they want will impact the long-term deployment, but it won't stop the core software from being deployed. If they know their sales process and the guidance, because you build a sales campaign, and a sales campaign is a product with a message. It's a time frame. It's a it's a stages. It's all the things that make up a good sales process, and you can build unique ones for each thing you sell. So if you have that information, it's 3 weeks and you're
Wow.
up and running. The challenge is companies don't know that. So we have consultants that we introduce them to so that they can build out, their process. When CRMs use things like cadence,
Hmm.
and I joke and say my 6-year-old granddaughter could create a cadence as valid as anything on the market. We replace cadence. It's part of the predictive AI. Uh, you can start off with whatever you want, but it's going to track it. Matter of fact, we say right off the bat, do A/B testing. Try different things. Keep experimenting because we're going to collect all the data you're going to learn. It's going to show you what's best.
Right.
Uh, but
Okay.
it's simple. Uh, we try to keep it all very simple.
So now I would love to flip the script. Which marketing channels have been most effective in reaching and acquiring customers? Have you done direct sales, partnerships, inbound, outbound, podcast, or there is some other magic stick?
I love your questions. Yeah, by I'm biased. So in the non-biased world, it all works to relative degrees. It's how good you are at using them. Right now we're using a combination of LinkedIn and direct emails. And the advantage of those things is that you can automate them all and nobody really touches it. So your cost per touch is pretty low. But as I was explaining to one of our new clients the other day, I said the problem with that technology is it assumes that you have a limitless universe out there because you need a lot. But if you're a more traditional company with territories and you know where your prospects are and you want to talk to all of them, then these tools have lots of limitations. And there's some new data out there that supports this. But if you really need to grow a defined space and you know who they are, picking up the phone is still the best way to do it. And we're starting to work with a few companies that do training for that, and we'll help you create your. We don't call them scripts. That scares people. The guidance. What do you say? The problem is that people do it so wrong. Pretty much everything you should do, and that goes all the way back to those 50 rules that I figured out. A lot of them have to do with getting people on the phone. And that was always our most effective way to get it done fast. And that's how we could outperform the sales teams that were the company that we're doing the work from because they wouldn't do it. And we would. And we were really good at it. It was if on day one you know who you need to sell to, and at day 90 you have to have made a lot of traction into those companies, you got to pick up the phone.
Right.
I mean,
Sales is
it's
more about interaction and doing the
yeah,
right pitch. Yes,
yeah,
agreed.
and you can't you know to put too much automation between you and your prospect is there's a lot of pitfalls with that. And I love technology. I love all this stuff, but you also have to be realistic about it. You know, AI is still in its infancy. AI is so new and they're rushing into things and it sounds cool, but let's get the data. And that's really what ProspectStream is about. You can use all that technology with ProspectStream. We'll integrate your phone system. We'll integrate all kinds of stuff with it. Uh, and it'll collect the data for you and you'll learn and you'll know what works. Companies fail because they don't sell enough. They don't get the traction. So how do you lessen that risk? Well, you learn.
And the
You
issue
collect.
is whenever the revenue drops, sales and the marketing department is the first department who gets the first hit.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would like to know what's next for ProspectStream. Any features or directions you're particularly excited about? What is your roadmap, Steve?
Yeah, uh, I'm gonna spill the beans. We've been working now on a forecasting tool, and we know how bad sales forecasting is. We've all done it. It's a guess. Then the further up the organization it gets pushed, everybody just cuts. Yeah, let's cut that in half. Let's cut that in half. So it's a guess. Now you have a guess, and now you look to your salespeople to go do it. Like, I mean, that sounds like insanity when you say that out loud. Well, we know that with the data we collect and uh, and the what goes along with collecting data, I mean, governance of that is massive. So if you go talk to a data scientist, the ability to audit your data to make sure that it's accurate, it's clean, it's consistent, those are big mountains, and we have 5 patent pendings all about our data collection. So it's super clean. Well, with that data, then we're going to be able to forecast sales in a way that no one's ever even uh, touched. Maybe we've dreamt about it, but we're going to be able to show based on the sales campaigns that you're going to put out, your marketplace, past history, your sales team, everything. We're going to be able to factor in everything into your sales forecast, and the brilliant brain that is behind this. And I'll give him a plug, Dr. Kelly Cohen from University of Cincinnati. Uh, he's certain that we're going to be in the 90% accuracy range. And one of the reasons, or the biggest reason why he can say that is we cheat. So we create the forecast, but we also create an action plan. So
Okay.
we will then have a plan that shows what every single rep needs to do every single minute of the day. Now, can they alter? Do things happen? Sure. And that's the point of it is as you get off course, you can know if you're on or off course on day one. Did we make all the contacts that we needed to make today? Are we making our cold calls? Are we getting our emails out? Are we having the conversations? Because we know exactly how many you need to do. We also can look at your universe. How many prospects do you have? How good are they? What do you know about them? There's so much that we can do with that to say this rep doesn't have enough prospects of this given type or size. You go out and look at your ICP and say how many exist? How many do we know about? How many does each sales rep have? When you can get that granular, you can be pretty certain that, if it's a 90-day plan and you're on day 30 and you can absolutely specifically target the part that's failing, you can go fix it.
That's a very strong roadmap. And when
Mhm.
are you going to launch it? Any timelines?
Uh, we're looking at 6 months.
6 months time, right?
And
Okay.
and the thing is with predictive AI and the data necessary, a company needs to start to build it. So I would tell any company that you should plan on collecting a year's worth of data
Hmm.
before you can expect the forecasting side of it to really have value. And each year you do it, it'll get much
Better
stronger.
and better. Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
know. Okay.
yeah.
So the last question, finally, for those who want to learn more or connect with you directly, what is the best way for them to reach you? Are you active on LinkedIn or any other social media platform?
I am active on LinkedIn. They Our marketing people make sure I am. They yell at me. And I mean, my email address is the best way. and that's my first initial last name, Steve Farfsing. So sfarfsing at prospectstream.com. And if you go on our website, prospectstream.com, there's some links there that I get a copy of those emails, so I'll make sure you get followed up on. And if you want to talk directly to me, put my name on it. I'm
Right.
happy
Okay.
to. I love having these conversations, as you can probably tell. A little bit
Yes.
of energy.
Yes, Steve, thank you for sharing your insight. I really enjoyed this discussion. And to our audience, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with anyone curious about the future of AI and analytics. Until next time, I'm Ali Jamal. Stay curious and keep scaling.